Hi, I'm Shanika Center. I'm the virtual content specialist for middle school science for multilingual learners and ELs. Today's video is going to be a read aloud of the video presented to you in Unit 4, Day 17. This video talks about the differences between nature and nurture and how both of them influence the person we become. Before we get started, let's review some key words for this lesson and unit. The first word is nature. So in this context, when we're talking about nature, we're talking about genes. We're talking about DNA and genetics. Your genes code for certain traits or characteristics. So your hair color, your height, whether you're susceptible or may get some diseases, your likes and dislikes, all are part of your genes. Genes are made up of sections of DNA. So chunks of DNA are your genes. Your genes come from your parents. That's why you may have the same traits or characteristics as your mom and your dad. During reproduction, their DNA mixes up and becomes yours. Your genes can be turned on and off. If a gene is on, you will have that trait. If your gene is off, you will not have that trait. If you have the gene for diabetes and it's turned off, you will probably not have diabetes. If you have the gene for diabetes and it's turned on, you probably will have diabetes. Most of your genes can be turned on and off due to your nurture. When we talk about nurture, we're talking about your environment or your lifestyle. So what choices you make in your life. Do you exercise? Do you eat well? Do you smoke? Do you sleep only 2 hours a night? Your nurture also has to do with how you were raised. How did your parents treat you when you were little? How did your family treat you when you were little? What type of school did you go to? All of these things have to do with your nurture. So your environment or lifestyle can turn certain genes on or off. We'll talk a little bit more about this throughout the video. Now that we reviewed our key vocabulary, we're going to get started on our read aloud. The video that this read aloud is based on can be found in Unit 4, Day 17. Mo and Jasper are identical twin brothers. This means they have the same exact DNA. They were separated at birth and lived completely different lives. Mo is tanner and has freckles. He also has back problems and really bad knees. Jasper has 2 fake teeth and is very overweight. Again, these 2 twin brothers have the same exact DNA, but grew up living completely different lives. So if Mo and Jasper have the same DNA, why do they have so many differences? Now that you know a little bit about Mo and Jasper, I want you to make a prediction. On your note sheet, write a hypothesis. What do you think made Mo and Jasper the way they are? Their genetics or their environment? Their differences are because of their environment and their choices, or in other words, their nurture. Mo used to work in construction. That explains why he has a bad back and really bad knees. Jasper loves eating candy and cakes. His choices have caused his obesity genes to be activated and turned on. This is why he's overweight. So their differences are because of the choices they made and how those choices have affected their genes. Because Mo worked in construction, his bad back gene has been activated. But because he's so active, his obesity gene has not been activated. Jasper has not been active. He sits around, he eats candy and cakes, so his bad back gene has not been activated. His obesity gene, however, has been, and that's why he is overweight. Mo and Jasper have the same exact DNA, but they made different choices and lived in different environments. That is why they have different traits. So in conclusion, both your DNA and your environment contribute to your traits. If you don't have the DNA for a specific trait, you're not going to have that trait. For example, if you don't have the trait to be 6'7", you're not going to be 6'7". No matter how much stretching you do, no matter how much exercise you do, you will never become 6'7". Some of your traits are more influenced by your environment. Other traits are more influenced by your DNA. If you have the obesity gene, but you decide to eat well and exercise, you can be really fit. If you have the obesity gene and you decide to eat poorly, not exercise, you could become overweight. Other traits are more influenced by your DNA. And no matter what you do or what environment you put yourself in, your traits will not change. But for the most part, the combination of your DNA and your environment are what makes you you. Now that we have finished our read aloud, I want you to revisit your hypothesis. Do you still believe your initial answer, or has your opinion changed based on the information that you've learned?